Thanks for joining us again. This is a listener request, I believe, Jared. Ben, through Facebook, threw it out there that we should watch Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge. Now, we did cover Scare Package. This is an exclusive to Shudder. So, that's today's movie. Before that, though, Jared, what have you been getting onto? I mean, obviously, this is a Christmas season / stand down. So this is really where we should be ramping it up. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, but I mean, what? We only spoke about this.
Oh, no, not that long ago, but shit. So, I still managed to put a couple away.
Yeah, I've got a few, not many. Still watching my way through the Spider-Man TV series.
Okay.
It's taken up a bit of my time. After, I think the last Christmas entry I spoke about was Violent Night. I did, on Christmas Eve, I couldn't help myself. I had to throw on Silent Night, Deadly Night. I went with number 1 this time.
Yours was the first part. I would have gone with Garbage Day!
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
You did?
Of course. What?
Look, you know, the movie it has got its moments, that movie.
I mean, it does have some amusing shit as well, like some ridiculous stuff.
But it's a bit more.
But there's actually a couple of reasonable kills and things like that.
Yeah.
And mind you, I didn't realise we've got a fucking Michael Myers sighting in there.
Who?
Don Shanks is in it.
Donnie Shanks?
You know, the Santa that crawls up in the bedroom?
Oh, he gets shot?
No, he doesn't end up getting shot, but yeah, they burst in on him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He pulls the thing away. I didn't even recognise him at first, but then I saw in the credits, and I was like, well, hang on a minute. That's Don Shanks.
Don Shanks.
There you
Wasn't
go.
he the Michael?
He's one of the worst Michaels.
Oh, okay.
No, look.
Perhaps not necessarily his
I shouldn't say that. He was pretty good as Michael, but he was in one of the poorly handled.
Yeah, he was possibly one of the worst.
I also watched The Christmas Carol, the Jim Carrey one, the animated one.
Yeah.
Kids wanted to check that out, so we had a bit of a look.
How'd you feel about it?
Couldn't sanction the buffoonery, as always, but, you know, no, it's okay.
Because we went to the theatre for a viewing of the Christmas Carol.
I was actually going to go to that.
It was good. It very much reminded me of the Jim Carrey one.
Yeah.
A little bit fucking... a little bit heavy for the kids, I would have felt.
Yeah. Well, it's all right. Like, it's just, I don't know. There was a few, even in this one, there's a few dark moments, but I think they're well past that, so... I also jumped onto Knives Out in preparation for Glass Onion.
Oh, okay.
So I watched that again, still enjoyed it, and then, moved on to Glass Onion. And, thoroughly enjoyed that one too. I personally, I think it's probably a shade off the first one. But same sort of thing. If you like the first one, you'll get the same sort of enjoyment out of it. Daniel Craig is he's up the buffoonery a little bit in this one. He's kind of
bit of an idiot.
Well, there's a couple of moments where it's kind of supposed to be comedic, but there's a few things where he's constantly... there's one part where he's talking about how his weakness is stupid games, and they start talking about Clue. Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm fucking terrible at it. Stupid game, all this sort of stuff. And that kind of runs through the movie. So it's kind of funny, but there's a small talking point that I will also mention after you let us know what you've watched in regards to Glass Onion. Okay.
I finished Last Chance U Basketball. Again.
It just boils your blood, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't boil my blood. No, it doesn't boil my blood because you start to see a bit of camaraderie and a bit of team dynamic come into play.
Yep.
Which was good. But as I said, these players I don't get behind them because of their actions a lot of the time. And then, as I expected in the last couple of episodes, they fucking revert back to their usual bullshit and, you know. So I just found them hard to like.
What sort of support do they give them for their obvious kind of mental or social sort of...
Well, it doesn't really showcase a lot of that. It's more about the coaching.
Because I thought that would be a massive part of taking a program.
Yeah. And there are some interesting... There are kids with interesting situations that, you know, need to be looked at.
Yeah.
And that you'd think that they would potentially need a little bit more of that. But it doesn't particularly showcase that, which I found interesting. And whether or not they're, you know, the coaches take on a lot of that. I mean, the fucking coaches, it's just... They do so much.
Yeah.
Like, their asses are hanging out.
Yeah.
So, I appreciated the coaching staff a heap, you know, and I think I can see why they followed John Mosley, the coach, because he's a really interesting guy. With a fantastic, interesting backstory and just a great mindset for coaching and stuff. Like he's just the perfect guy to follow.
Yeah.
And see, the problem that the American football versions had is, I mean, they had some shocking shit in that. Fucking one of the coaches was an absolute loose cannon and all this sort of stuff. Things came out that didn't look good. So I like the fact that Mosley is who he is. Okay, we watched the original Jumanji.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, that's good shit.
Yeah.
I've forgotten how good that was.
Yep.
It's really, really good, really entertaining. I hadn't seen it for a long time, so it was good to get back to it. We then followed it up with Good Morning Vietnam. We're on a bit of a Robin Williams kick.
Robin Williams, yeah.
We're considering going there again tonight, but chose not. I think that decision has been passed because we watched the first episode of Limitless with Chris Hemsworth.
Yep.
Pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting stuff, and you do sort of get a sense of, because this one was all about stress.
Yep.
And how it builds so quickly.
Fuck, mate. I could do with watching a bit of that.
Yeah, you could.
Or you could probably do with a bit.
I probably could. Currently. Box breathing. Box breathing on.
Yeah,
probably just need
to
start box
I need to
breathing
count to fucking thousands, I think.
No. She's
10's not going to cut it.
He's still fucking counting. Hemsy, interesting guy. Like Hemsy. He's got, as Caitlin said to me, he laughs like Thor, doesn't he? He's got this booming sort of laugh. And Caitlin's like, yeah, very much a Thor laugh.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good. It was good. It's a 6-episode season, so I think we might have another look at another couple of episodes tonight.
Yeah, right.
See how it goes. I don't know why I bring this up, because this is more of my. I was watching a bit of a true crime show on the side. You know, I usually sometimes have that on in the background when I'm doing other things.
Yeah.
This one was called Killer. It has different things. Like there's a 10-episode grouping of them that's Killer Neighbours, and then there's the next 10 episodes were Killer Colleagues and stuff like that. And I don't know why I found this humorous. I think, I'll probably explain why I found it humorous. This guy killed his girlfriend or something. I can't remember the full details of it. He went on the run. When they finally tracked him down, he tried to kill himself by slashing his wrists with a box cutter and trying to slash his throat unsuccessfully. And then they just make mention there was also a box cutter in his bumhole. And I was like,
okay.
And I said to my wife, I would be the worst detective, because I'd be like, hold on, how'd you get that in there? Let's unpack that.
Yeah, don't worry about the crime.
Yeah.
I need to.
I don't care if you killed it.
Let's unpack that part of it.
How? After you'd cut your own throat, what, did you put it up your bum first?
Oh my god.
I don't know
because
why.
you had to put it, while you were
doing it
after you slashed it, you didn't have anything to hold it with, so I don't know. Is that how we got there?
Yeah, look, mate, we're out looking for a confession. Don't worry. I'm not interested in the confession, I just need to know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I threw that in.
Why wouldn't you?
But that was it for me. So now you've got a problem with Knives Out.
I don't have a problem.
Dave Bautista?
I mean, I've said something a couple of times on this podcast.
You feel like this is...
Well, imagine my delight. And none other than Ryan Johnson himself says Dave Bautista is the greatest wrestler turned actor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's publicity because he's in your movie.
Yeah, of course.
But he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. No,
he's not wrong.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I mean, people say he just plays the same thing after Drax.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is true. Like, there is elements of the humour and stuff in Knives Out that are similar to that. But he's one of the funnier elements of Glass Onion. So, yeah. I was sitting there looking at the headline going, well, fuck, maybe I do know. You
do?
Maybe once in a blue moon, there's a good idea that pops out there somewhere. Now, I don't know whether Ryan's seen The Ultimate Weapon. He may want to watch that and then reconsider once he sees Hogan with a full bristly head of hair.
Yeah. People have forgotten that when Hogan fucking suits up properly with some hair, he can be very convincing as a special forces operative.
Yep.
But
with a sweaty bum.
But let me throw this at you. Look at Batista's body of work recently.
Yeah.
You've got fucking, what was that one that was like Die Hard in the stadium?
Oh yeah. Final Score.
He can play John McClane in a subpar
against the bloke who completely alters his whole look with plastic surgery.
It's the worst Russian accent in the history of cinema as well. Fucking Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably a little lower on his. But he can play the action hero.
He can. He can play the comedic action hero.
Stu. Shit.
Now I keep bringing
this is
Stuber up.
not going well. At the
I
moment.
keep bringing Stuber up, but I'm not going to pretend I wasn't absolutely wrapped up in Batista with eye issues driving around.
Yelling out the window at everyone.
Yeah.
Look.
Yep.
Things haven't started well, but let's look at some of the other stuff. Spectre.
Yep.
Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we got
And he's
there?
actually...
Blade
Blade Runner's, I think so. Blade Runner's a small role, but he was very good. It was basically just like a one scene, but it was kind of centered around him performing, and he did.
Dune.
Hmm.
Glass Onion.
Yep. The Marvel Pictures.
Marvel Pictures. He's taking interesting parts.
Yeah.
Trying to take parts and focus on parts that don't necessarily put him in the lead. That's what the difference is, I think, and that's why I feel like he's a better actor.
Yeah, well, that's right. He's never going to have the box office pull of The Rock, or be as famous as The Rock, or have multi-billions of dollars and squillions of bloody irons in the fire.
Correct.
But he picks, as you said, roles that are interesting and actually stretch a little bit.
Well, let's look at it. The Rock came fresh out of wrestling, straight into Scorpion King, then straight into a brace of sort of action hero movies.
Yeah.
Right? Where he was the star. Batista didn't do that.
No.
You know, even his early roles like Drax. Drax is not a big role. Like
he kind of did do that because he was in one of the Scorpion King movies, wasn't he?
Who?
Batista.
Was he?
Yeah, here we go. Scorpion King 3, the one with Ronnie Perlman on the front looking like a bozo. Billy Zane.
Oh. Okay, so yeah, but then from there he sort of segued into other things.
Yeah, he does those things, but then he will do the... I think Guardians of the Galaxy sort of changed it a little bit for him and got him a few more roles, but he does the heavy, like Inspector, and let's not forget Tong Po.
Okay, hell yeah, I wish I had. And I bet he wishes he had too.
But yeah, lately there's a few more.
He had a rat's tail in that too.
Yeah, he did. There's a few more of the. There's a few more of the acting roles and a little bit of the comedy and stuff like that.
Well, I think I'd put it this way then. Let's put it this way. The Rock has not taken small roles apart from Be Cool and that pile of shit from the fucking bloke who made Donnie Darko.
Yeah. Yeah.
He took those and they didn't work. I mean, his most recent smaller role would probably be Painting Game. Yeah. Which is his best work.
It is.
By far.
And he needs to do more of that sort of stuff.
So I'd like to see The Rock take the Batista kind of angle.
Yep.
And hunt out some roles where they're in big movies, but I'm not the star. I'm just in the background. I'm playing a small part.
Yeah, he needs to do that.
But I think you might be right. Batista might be...
Well, it's not me that said it.
Right,
John Johnson said it.
What about Cena? Where does he sit?
Cena's pretty good. He hasn't got the chance to do the dramatics, but he's got the other two. I mean, he's got the heavy and the comedic stuff in there.
That's right.
All he needs is a dramatic turn, and he's right up there.
He played the heavy in that Fast and the Furious fucking turn, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
I believe that was the one where I picked it in the fucking preview where it was going.
Oh, definitely his brother. You can tell by the fucking hair.
Yeah. Because John Cena immediately strikes me as a Toretto.
Another quick side note, I said that an episode ago that there's no way Avatar will cross the 1.3 billion.
Yeah.
That's a break-even point from what I've heard.
Yep.
It's currently after 2 weeks sitting on 950 million worldwide. So where do you think we are now?
Well, I think
we like to reassess.
I believe it crossed 1.
Did it?
The last I read it crossed 1.
Fuck.
So
All right, okay.
Look, I don't know if I need to reassess. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said I was sceptical about 2.
I don't think it'll get to 2, but I believe the break-even point was 1.3.
Yeah, I thought 1
tells
might
me
have been...
probably get there.
I didn't think it would get to 1 billion this quickly. But, you know. Thanks, James. And I can tell you, Adam, I'm a little bit upset because that means there's going to be another 3 of these things.
Fuck.
And I said to you, the way they're trending, the last one will be 4.5 hours long.
Fuck me dead. Imagine being stuck in there for 4.5 hours watching that shit. I mean, I do want to see this one.
Yeah,
I do.
I'm going to see it.
I actually do want to see it because, as I said, the first one was good enough, I feel, to warrant going to see the second one. But I don't know, I just don't know if I can handle 3 hours and 17 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
We will.
All right, let's take a break. Here's the trailer for 2022's Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge.
Friends, family, it means so much to me that you're here today. But it also means I've met my tragic, but clearly untimely demise.
So here you all are, at my best friend's funeral. But why?
Let's bring this dude back to life.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
We don't have a choice.
You can't kill pure evil.
How'd you like to play a game?
He's gonna kill us all. We need to do something.
Sequels are the lifeblood of the horror genre.
We are the final girls. They don't kill us. Guys, I think she's dead.
You couldn't have put bees inside of us.
You didn't respect horror. But now, you will.
We're so dead.
That's pretty good.
Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge from 2022. Directed by Alexander Barretto, Anthony Cousins, Aaron B. Kuntz, Jed Shepard and Rochelle Wiggins. So they all directed portions of it. Produced by Cameron Burns, Anthony Cousins, Aaron B. Kuntz, Nicole Rosas, Ashley Sneed, Sean Talley, Helen Tuck and Tim Wilrich. It's created by Aaron B. Kuntz and Cameron Burns. The segments were written by Alexandra Barretto, Aaron B. Kuntz, Ryan Scadaly, Cameron Burns, John Casco, Anthony Cousins and Jed Shepard. It stars Steph Berkeley as Buffy, Sienna Sharutin as Nancy, Luxie Banner as Ginny, Steph S. Gonzalo as Ellen. That's just they're from the first of the stories. So there's a hell of a lot more. The budget is unknown, and it's direct to Shudder, so there's no box office. Anthony Cousins was the only director to return from the original film, apart from the creators, I think. But the 2 creators came back, obviously. Mm-hmm. All right, Scare Package 2, Jared. Where do you sit?
Look, I had a good time with it.
You had a good time.
I did enjoy it. There are parts of it that overstay the welcome a little bit, and there's this fine line between meta and parody, which this one just balls all the way over. The wraparound is almost like watching a scary movie or a scary movie picture. So if you don't like that, then it's going to be an immediate turn off. And I know, having conversations with certain people, there are some people that really don't go for the horror and the comedy together, especially when it pushes this far into the comedy. So I reckon there are some people that are going to just write it off because of that.
Yeah.
In saying that, I actually enjoyed the wraparound stuff. I know you had a bit of an issue with it that I sort of agreed with, but I'll let you get onto that when you have a little talk about it. I feel like the stories weren't particularly strong.
No.
Okay, so we only had 4 stories this time around. I probably liked 2 of them. There was another one that was okay, there was one that I was just like, that's not even, the idea's not even finished. That's what I felt like anyway. Yeah. And so overall, I landed on a 3. Because I did enjoy the experience sitting down watching it. I don't mind a bit of horror comedy. I am the sort of person that will watch a bad spoof film and still giggle a few times. So I got a few laughs out of it and enjoyed it for what it was. So 3 for me.
Okay. I feel like I agree with you in a lot of ways. I felt like the wraparound story was the best stuff was probably in the wraparound story. There's only one of the 4 stories that I thought was good. I thought the others were all unformed, and they actually felt very much like set pieces as opposed to actual stories. There was a very thin start and end to each of them.
Yes.
Whereas the one particular story that I liked, as I'll get to, I actually thought that was pretty well handled across the board.
There's one in particular that fits into something like, if I think about like the Mortuary Collection or something like that.
Yeah.
You look at those stories and they're the perfect... I mean, the short story thing is, you really got to have a twist in there somewhere, or you really got to spin an expectation. Things like Trick or Treat, that managed to do it continually throughout the film, like killer twists and then tie them in together and stuff like that. This one, I agree with you. There's some ideas there that work out okay, but as short stories and vignettes and whatnot,
didn't really work.
Probably not all as successful. I didn't
Look, the effort and the love of horror is definitely there. And I am not questioning that at all. But it is just too much humour, too much meta. The humour is... the hit rate is low. The hit rate is low. And when you're... Every single line seems to be geared up for something funny. If 90% of it's not funny, then what...
Yeah.
What am I getting? I'm not getting a lot out of that. The meta stuff is, you're right, spills way too far over one side, and it's just too much. If you'd have cut 50% of the jokes and 50% of the sort of Easter eggs, I think you'd have had a much better film. If you just played a little straighter in some of those moments.
And I think there's some really good ideas that, with a little more time,
would have
worked really well
together really nicely.
I.e., the Saw revelations at the end.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that actually came together pretty well.
Yeah,
but then gets fucking ruined by another ridiculous fucking spoof joke.
Yeah.
Where I'll get to it, but fuck, I was absolutely livid by it, because I was just like, you fucking can't even take 2 seconds not to make a joke. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. We better get back onto the box breathing there, mate.
In for 4, hole for 4. Jesus. It took away from everything, all the over meta moments and pointing out to all these horror things. It took away from anything that was being any way they were trying to move things forward.
Yeah,
it just kind of took away from all that. The crude gore is pretty well done.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. I think in a low budget picture like this, it's got to be a little bit kind of shitty. And so I was okay with that. I really applaud the effort. But it just proves to you can love something a lot, but that doesn't mean you're making anything good with it. That's where I fell here.
Yeah, right.
And I gave it 2.
Okay.
Which I think is what I gave the first one.
Fair enough.
So I was kind of on par.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The wraparound story being kind of a Saw type of setup, and starting at his funeral and everything. I really like that.
Yeah, good way to continue.
I actually thought that was a really good way to start.
And very much fit in with the first one. The style of the first one.
Correct.
Yeah, I was pleased with that as well.
So we were off to a decent start.
Yeah.
And in fact, I got a couple of laughs in there as well with his videotape of how he died, and then he has to keep fast forwarding it, and he's coming up with all these things from classic movies, Yeah. And then he stops on the one that he actually did die from.
Yeah, that was good.
That was cool.
Also, I love the fact that she rolled out a VCR to do it.
Yeah.
It just gave me memories of the classroom. Someone would roll in the VCR, and then the remote wouldn't be work. Those universal remotes that were supposed to work in every classroom wouldn't work.
Yeah, I like that. I also got a great little laugh out of the film's title coming up, and then it was like Jason Lives.
Yeah.
How he walks out across and goes.
Yeah,
and then,
the old Bond.
Blood comes out. I really like that.
The spoof.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I thought that was funny, and we're off to a flyer.
Yep.
For me.
Yep.
The gore, cheap and cheery.
Yeah.
But I love that shit. Like, I kind of love that kind of cheap kind of looking practical effects.
Yeah, and it seems like it's purposeful that you can see the seams a little bit on this stuff.
It reminded me a lot of, like, Dead Alive.
Yeah.
Like Peter Jackson, Dead Alive, or even was it Brain Damage? Brain Dead or whatever. Bad Taste. Even Bad Taste, which was real cheap and cheery.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate that. I think you needed that. Like, it couldn't have been anything else.
Yes.
And even they had a little bit of ropey VFX in there as well. But again, I felt like it had to be that way.
It's a tone that you had sort of expected.
Really. And you'd established in the first movie that you were going for sort of a B-grade VHS type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they went to those lengths. And I think a lot of it works well.
Yep.
It was not long after that, Jared, I'm not going to lie to you, there was fucking very little in the likes department for me. Until we got to the story about the girls watching the video with the guy with the blades for his arms.
Yeah.
There's a couple of genuinely really cool moments in that.
Well, it's funny because given that it was basically the cast and the writer of Host, which I had no time. I seem to be the only bloke on the planet that had no time for Host. Yeah, I think that was the best one by a stretch. And I love the way they set it up around, that was the ghost from Three Men and a Baby, basically.
Yeah.
I love that kind of setup, setting it up around a famous urban legend. Again, another reason why we're in a golden age with Blu-ray. How the fuck did anyone think that was a set up an urban legend around that being a ghost for so many years?
It's fucking definitely Ted Danson. Is it not?
It is,
Like,
correct.
when you pause on it now, it's him.
I mean, even on video, you look at it and you're like, oh, it seems pretty clear that it's just fucking some sort of cutout sitting there. But anyway, I did love that one. And that was the one that fucking dropped a bit of the humour.
Yeah, dropped the humour from it totally. And that bit where she tries to blow the fly off her mobile everything moves inside the photo.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Awesome.
And then the use of the remote to rewind and shit and fast and flick forward and everything on things happening. I thought that was cool.
The cracking little twist, like obviously the idea came together. It was a pretty simple story that the ghost was coming out of being controlled by the remote, but that final shot of all of them
standing
in the fucking curtains there, awesome stuff. I loved it. I loved that one.
Yeah, I really liked it. I think that they did a fantastic job there, and that was the only one that had a proper structure and a proper beginning and end.
That said, I did think as meta goes, the setup for the Final Girls versus the Shorter Die Girls wasn't too bad. Like, I liked ideas from that, like the way that it was set at the turn of the decade for them to comment on how things progressed from the 80s to the 90s.
Sure.
Some of it was a little bit on the nose, like a little bit too... Like, you could have just alluded to the names, for example. I don't think you needed to call everyone the same name and stuff like that. But he'd had a few funny laughs. It had something, little something to say about the genre. I didn't mind that one either. So.
Yes. I just felt genuinely... I actually did coming back to the guy with the blades for arms, he actually looked really cool too.
Yeah.
Even though he was only on screen very briefly, they kept him at a distance.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it worked really, really well.
Yes.
Always good to see Joe Bob.
Yeah.
He's only in it very briefly.
Yep.
And a couple of little moments of him. But I can see why he's there, and obviously has a connection to these guys. And I think it's a cool thing to see him.
Well, not only was he in the first one, but I think they premiered it on Last Driving, which was cool. I think that was a really good idea and a good way to... I mean, that automatically buys you a bit of cred.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there's nothing wrong with having him there. I think his presence just, I feel like, solidifies that B-grade stuff you're going for.
Yeah.
Like, what you're sort of aiming for.
Yep.
The sequence where the woman has to go and get the key and she has to carry the camera.
Yeah.
And then there's a moment where she's she's holding the camera, it's facing her, and then
it's the
this
wreck.
monster just comes charging out from behind her.
Yeah.
It was a real nice shot, real nice shot.
Yeah.
And it took me by surprise.
Yeah, that was when the whole thing was just... I mean, the guy was set up to look like Freddy.
Oh.
They were in the saw trap. They had the Hellraiser element. That was Wreck, basically. It was a little bit overloaded there, but yeah, that was Kelly Maroney, wasn't it?
Yes, Kelly Maroney.
So
I'll get to that.
yeah. So
because that moment itself was very nice.
yeah, so I mean, I've got a couple from a little earlier.
Yeah.
Anytime you throw in a damn enchiladas, I don't
Oh,
care.
yeah.
I don't care how you throw it in there.
I
It'll make
forgot
me
about
laugh.
it.
It'll make me laugh,
But it was,
especially when
yeah.
they're fucking vomiting everywhere.
Yeah.
And one of them goes, "Damn enchiladas!"
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
think
yeah,
that was still a moment of humour that popped in.
Yeah.
And but you know what, Jared? That's an Easter egg I like.
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
so outside of the norm that not everyone's going to get it.
Yeah.
But I just like the fact that it's there.
Yeah. Bringing back the goo guy. I mean, we could have done a little bit more of that because, quite honestly, out of the first collection, it's one of the few that really kind of stood out. I remembered that. If you mentioned, oh yeah, the goo guy, I wouldn't know what you were talking about. And I contrast it with the one about the killer that keeps coming back.
Yeah.
It took until the flashback for me to realise, oh fuck, that's tied into the first.
Yeah, the big reveal or the twist or whatever at the end.
Yeah.
I remember I was just sitting there going,
I sort of said, oh yeah, shit, I forgot
right. He was the
those
killer
characters.
in the first movie.
So, yeah, the goo guy, I could have done with a little more of that. Outside of, Joe Bob and Rad Chad, that was really one of the few things I really recall from the first one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was a good idea. Another thing, Adam, I mean, a bit of Stan Bush, Thunder in Your Heart, never goes astray.
Oh, fuck.
But can't we get the Fonzie version? I mean, he's a superior vocalist.
Oh, of course. Especially now that his throat's been ripped out. His throat's been ravaged.
Don't say that.
Sorry, Fonzie. But we need more of Fonzie from his previous days singing that stuff.
Yeah, classic stuff.
The problem with that for me, and I'll come to it, I loved the idea of the song.
Yeah.
But just the shit that it was around.
Yes.
It's just like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, it worked better at the end.
Yeah, I think it did
as
too.
the film's finishing and we've got Thunder in Your Heart going.
Yeah.
Again, get the Fonzie version.
Fonzie, I bet you Stan's a little cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
Even though Fonzie doesn't have the reach to the States, I mean, all he's going to do is say, have a listen, side by side, and tell me which one you want.
I've got you there, haven't I? I had to chuckle with the bloke Sam getting hit in the face with a machete, and then fucking rolling down the stairs like the guy out of fucking Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah.
And he was even dressed the same.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Again, I didn't love the story about, the killer continually coming back. That's one of those ones where I feel like, you're bringing up things that we know, but you're not doing a hell of
Well, you're not doing anything with it.
But I did fucking laugh my ass off when that Loomis bloke, he starts wrapping around the whole evil stuff, but he's whipping it in with lines like, oh, he's been nursed by the teeth of the devil, spanked by Satan himself, and all this sort of stuff. I did laugh pretty heartily at that. That was good stuff. Yeah. And I really liked the first mask that popped up in that one for some reason.
Oh, yeah. There was kind of like it was plastic.
Yeah.
It looked like plastic, and it had like a
grin.
Grin on it. I thought that wasn't too bad.
And I think that's one of those things where, yeah, they're going with the cheaper effects, and we've said it a few times. Like, oftentimes these things are like the Terror Train remake. It's hard to get a mask that's really going to stand out, and it's not going to look like a copy of something. But like that Terror Train one, it popped up, and I thought, shit, that's not too bad. That's actually a bit of good work.
Can't wait for Terror Train 2.
Yeah, can't wait.
Only a couple of days away on Tubi.
Mark my words, the magician.
Hopefully they'll throw in after the final rose or whatever.
Yeah.
So we can really
Can we hurry up with that? We really need to get onto that. Yeah, aside from those kind of specific gags, not much else beyond that. I thought another wrestler popping up in there too.
Who?
Well, Goldust came back to play that guy at the end. You know how he played him in the first one?
Oh yeah, the dude that's in the car.
Yeah. So I think he came back. Well, I believe it was him again.
Look, the play on the ending of Saw. Now, spoilers for everyone. Okay. Brad Chad's obviously still alive, and they use the flashbacks and everything and he's got an accomplice.
Yeah.
And they flash back to some of the things that we felt like he would have, where he sort of led us astray or he bullshitted us.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty cool.
Yes.
Like, I was kind of like, I kind of dig that.
Yeah, and
It's
I
a
love the
nice
way they
play
kind
on
of set
Saw.
it up with like 3 different people having their flashbacks over the top of each other, basically.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of really cool. I actually thought that was... We kind of felt like we had kind of finished strongly. Like, I felt like, that's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I actually did kind of like the idea of you've got those collars around your neck, you've got 90 seconds to find out which 4 movies relate to this last story that we watched, and I thought that stuff was all alright.
Yep.
And the last thing for me was final credits sequence showing that Joe Bob is potentially Rad Chad's father.
Yes.
I thought that was cool because, again, Joe Bob being in it adds something to it.
It does.
The B grade, the guy who's into B grade schlock.
Yeah.
He's been his whole career. He should be attached to this.
Yeah, I agree.
Makes nothing but sense.
I liked it. And if they do another one, I would be happy to see much more Joe Bob.
Correct.
Even though they killed him off in the first one.
Correct.
Insinuating that he's part of it as well. It was pretty good.
Yeah. What else you got?
That was really it.
Dislikes. The characters are just very unlikable. And I think part of the problem for me was that every single line seems to be angling for a joke. Like, everybody's trying to drop a one-liner. Like, that felt like how the scripts for all... Well, there's certainly the script for the wraparound.
Yeah.
Was just set up to be one joke after another, after another, after another. And as I said to you, I think the hit ratio is very low.
Yeah, it is quite low, and they could have chopped a bit out. I felt like it's because when you look at it, the runtime was like 99 minutes, so you could have chopped a little bit of that stuff out. And I'm thinking stuff like the bees, where the bloke that we're trying to get comedy out of the bloke, and he's trying his best. And I think overall, he starts dancing, and I think overall, I thought his performance was pretty good. He had the job seemingly of just trying to be goofy the whole time. And as you said, the hit rate was not that high, but I'm prepared to give him a little bit of credit for going for it. But something like that, just drop that. I didn't think it was funny. It didn't really
add anything.
It didn't really add anything at all.
Did it add anything at all about, the woman died because she was allergic?
Well, not the whole bees thing.
Yeah.
Not the whole...
But just drop that stuff.
Drop we probably spent a good 30 seconds to a minute coming back to him going on about why he's dancing, and I was just like, it didn't work. Just drop that. Like,
yeah. Who sort of thought that was humorous?
Yeah, like, and there was a couple of times where it felt sort of. I read one review that described it, and I think it was a good way to put it. They described it as that it felt in jokey sort of stuff there. That there was stuff that we weren't in on.
Yeah, maybe.
And I also felt like the. You mentioned just still speaking pretty generally, the meta route's always hard to go because some people get put off by that. Even you and I spoke about it in something like Bodies, where it just felt there was a point where it feels like it's just like having a conversation with an insufferable know-it-all sort of.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like that, but when you're doing it the whole time, it's kind of a fine line. I said I feel like they crossed over into goofy and spoof sort of territory, which I can go for. But if you're going to do that, the writing's got to be really good. I mean, how many times have we seen a spoof that just is not funny?
Oh.
It's not easy to do, so...
Yeah, and it doesn't always work. Not only were the characters sort of unlikable, sort of coming back to where I was, but the acting was pretty broad, and nobody really stands out. Like, Sam tries to stand out, the guy who's sort of running the traps.
Yeah.
But he becomes a fucking pain in the ass after a while.
Yeah.
And I'll get to it a bit later. There's one particular scene where I was just like, shut up.
Yeah, there's full scenes where it just seems like him and the other guy that I was mentioning just there are just talking. And then that I think the scene that I think it's the scene, I believe I know which one you're talking about, where the hit rate is probably at its lowest.
Oh, it's just, you said insufferable, and some of it is. You can tell the lack of money's there.
Yeah.
Some of that shows. I mean, I think part of it, and the more I look back on it, I think they're going for a certain aesthetic.
Yes.
Because it looks really dark and shitty in a lot of cases and washed out. So they're obviously going for a VCR type of look.
Yeah.
But I didn't really find that to be. It's a little bit like.
I didn't have too much of an issue with it.
It's a bit like, removing fucking reels in those grindhouse pigs. I see what they were going for, and I get it.
I mean,
but it was just useless. It was just useless.
I could not disagree more. If you're going to tell me that Planet Terror didn't fucking benefit
Planet
from
Terror
that,
was alright, but then they did the same thing in the other fucking one.
Yeah.
And I don't know what if you could make it work, okay, but it just also felt a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So some of this felt a little bit too much, but I will cut that some slack and say, well, you're going for an actual aesthetic.
Yeah.
You're trying to make it look like it's a VCR.
Yep.
So I'll let that go.
Mm.
It still didn't look real good, in terms of the quality.
Yeah. Yep.
But obviously, perhaps for a reason.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't have too much of an issue with that. I just felt, we knew it was pretty low budget from the first one was probably lower budget.
No, I think
we
so.
knew this one was still pretty low budget. And I felt like it was fine. So the look of it, I didn't have too many problems with that.
The stories, there's only one good one for me. The others did not crackle with much wit or energy. There's not much being done in any of them.
What's the order? What do you reckon the order?
Well, definitely the.
I had number one was the
ghost thing.
Yes.
The guy with the arms. I would probably say for some reason, and you'd probably disagree, but I actually thought the Reanimator one was okay. In a sense.
I had that one last.
Just because I felt like you kind of knew what they were trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But probably failed to do.
Yes. That one was.
I would say the
up.
last one, the worst one for me was the killer who never dies.
Yeah, I think
just
that
felt
was
that
pretty
was just
low.
a bit of nothing much. The one about the final girls, that could have been all right.
Yeah,
but again, just half formed, didn't feel like it was fully fleshed out.
Yeah, so I think.
So I had that third.
I wasn't too far off. I think it's clear cut which one's first.
Yeah.
And that was the I can't remember what it was called, but it was the one about the urban legend.
Yeah.
So that was clear cut the best one. I thought Welcome to the 90s was not too bad.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that one for what it was. And then I think
you got to have the.
I think We're So
Killer
Dead.
Never Died.
Yeah, We're So Dead and The Night He Came Back, part 5 or part 6, The Night She Came Back, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
They were pretty much online. I think We're So Dead was probably a better idea.
Yeah, it was, but it just
didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Look, I love to see Australian filmmakers getting a crack, but why on earth would you take a Stephen King parody when Stephen King is so noted for writing about kind of Middle America sort of stuff, and do the Australian one for that?
Yeah, I
didn't get that. But I love the idea of exploring, like, taking the Reanimator, the Pet Cemetery, the Fly, like all these ways of changing or trying to bring someone back to life or whatever, and not really working. Yeah. But it just finished with a fucking thud. Like, there was just...
as you pointed out, there was... You want at least to throw something in. A twist. Something. There was nothing.
Well, it was the cat, which... I mean, anyone that's seen the movie, that wasn't a shock.
The big problem with that one is, once again, too heavy on the comedy.
Yeah.
Way too heavy on the comedy.
Yep.
And just... We got nothing else. But how long was that thing? Maybe about 6 or 7 minutes?
Yeah, probably not.
I mean,
either.
it's extremely difficult. No, I'm not knocking the filmmakers. It's extremely difficult to put together a short horror film in that type of time.
Yeah.
That has anything resembling a start, middle, and end.
Yep.
Narratively, it's extremely difficult.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, short stories, they don't necessarily have to play by the
structural rules.
They play a bit looser with the beginning, middle, and end, because the beginning and the middle, for example, they can be really fucking sharp,
basically
short,
just
sharp.
got to be just together.
Yeah, and then, you know, a big twist ending, or you write something familiar and put it in a different kind of setting, or throw a shock sort of thing in that way. Like, to me, the short stories have always been about that. And, yeah, I don't know, I just find it to be, like, these ones just didn't have... Well, that one in particular just didn't have anything to say by the end of it. It just put the things in there that we already knew about, but where's the kind of the twist on it? Where's the fun with it? Where's the we're going to take it in a different direction? Or if you go an all-out comedy, make it funny for me. It just didn't. I just didn't.
Yeah,
think
it didn't really have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it's a poor crop of
stories. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's nothing to hang your hat on there.
Yep.
So you got to hang it on the wraparound.
Yep.
The wraparound becomes the most important part of the film. This is where we're talking. This is what I'm talking about with regards to jokes that just don't work. Like they should be in a fucking, you know, in a date movie or one of them.
Mm-hmm.
We open with the final girl's story, and the killer's walking up to the sorority house or whatever.
Yep.
And he stops just in front of the path, and a fucking ice cream man rides out.
Yeah.
And I was just
and
like,
he checked his
what
pockets.
the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, cut that shit immediately. It's not funny at all.
Yeah, well, that's...
And it has no bearing on a horror trope or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
agree. Absolutely livid when I saw that. I was just like...
And it was just out of place, right? Like,
yeah. It's like, why are we looking at this? Like, that should have not... That's not a humour. It's not funny, for starters. And secondly, it has no connection to horror films.
Yeah.
So why have we got it?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's fair enough.
Oh, God. Now, this is probably my biggest bugbear, is just that scattershot sort of approach to humour. That's just throw everything you can at the wall and hope that some of it sticks. And unfortunately, most of it slides down the wall and lies in a pile. Which is disappointing, because I felt like it ruined the wraparound.
Yeah, it is a bit disappointing, because it was not the same. I felt like it was going really well in certain aspects, but the attempts of humour just never stopped. There was never a break from them. And as we kind of pointed out, if you're going to do that, they've got to have a pretty good strike rate.
It's like, you know, if it's piss funny, if some of it's funny, and then I understand being funny is subjective.
Yeah.
But I think that most people wouldn't find this funny. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm somebody who doesn't find it funny.
No,
but a lot of other people do.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think there was parts of it that were just, they were trying, but it just didn't quite get there. It feels like a bit of that. I don't know. There was parts of it where I was thinking of like Will Ferrell.
Yeah. Where he starts with something funny and then he just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And by that stage, you've forgotten the funny joke.
Or you're just asking the actor to try to keep it going and try to chat their way through it. And sometimes that works an absolute treat. I mean, think of Eastbound and Down, when Will Ferrell's talking about the plums and all that, the juicy plums and all this sort of shit.
Sometimes
it works pure gold. And then other times it's just kind of like, oh, that's missing. But what else are you going to put on there, I guess?
Exactly. The scene I was talking about is when the tricycle comes into the room.
Yeah.
And then it's followed by the saw doll.
Yep.
Going, mumbling something about, oh, I'm so sorry about that. So unprofessional. And then old mate pops out of the TV like Freddy.
Yep.
So immediately I was sitting there going, that joke is just so lame. The thing with the saw doll. Then old mate pops out of the TV like Freddy, then proceeds to chastise the saw doll about being unprofessional.
A modicum of professionalism.
Holy shit. Like, what are we doing? Why is this meant to be funny?
Again, I didn't think that was necessarily such a bad idea, but the humour was
just delivery. Just didn't quite
get there.
A little bit of pullback. Yeah. Just look at it and go, well, we need to pull back. Shoot one version of it without the comedic stuff, or back it up a little bit. Then shoot another version where you're going to ad lib and see where it goes. And if that's good, then add it. I mean, maybe that's what they did. But it just didn't. It didn't. He just. By that stage, Sam had become an insufferable prick.
Yeah.
Like an insufferable prick. Sorry. And I'd lost interest in the whole things that were going on.
Yeah, I think that point. Funnily enough, the Hellraiser stuff again. I didn't laugh when the things kept on slicing the one bloke. But I did kind of laugh after he'd been peeled, basically, and he's sitting there. It was the old Hellraiser.
Yeah, I'm in
but
hell,
he's sitting there against the wall, kind of pissing and moaning a little bit. So I got a bit of a laugh out of that. So I think it was worthwhile. But again, the lead up of him consistently getting cut by the things when no one else was overstayed the welcome a little bit.
And maybe that's what it was, Jared. Not necessarily there was so many jokes that they just constantly overstayed their welcome. So what would happen is a joke would start and then it just wouldn't stop for 5 minutes.
And there was some, like, you pointed out that the stuff under the Thunder in Your Heart, for example, the beer pong.
Yeah.
I didn't get why that was supposed to be so funny.
Yeah, I didn't really get it either.
I understand, okay, we're playing some beer pong. He talks about
a good game. He's good at it.
I used to be good at this, and then we get the old fire up music, the montage kind of stuff. But it just didn't land. That was another example. But I think you've identified the exact point where I kind of tired of Sam as well and was just like, just get on with the next story. Like, maybe that's where they could have chopped a few minutes out. And
culled a little. Yeah. Because at 95 minutes, you still felt pretty dragged.
It did. It was at that point where I was just like, are we going to get to the inevitable kind of Saw revelations? I was just kind of waiting for that at that point.
Yeah.
Because the trap for those ones, I mean, at that point, I'd kind of stopped paying attention to what the traps were, which is obviously that's not the important part. They want you to be engaged in what, the dialogue and the riffs between the characters. But I think you're right. It was at that point that I started to tire of that part of the setup and just wanted it to kind of finish.
Yeah, understood. The callback to the previous film's killer. It's kind of like supposed to have like this punch.
Yeah.
As I said, I didn't know who he was.
Which one?
When they roll out, I can't. When they're in the video store. And he comes out through the door.
Yeah, that was Dustin Runnels, I believe.
That's right.
I think they called him in the first one. He had a name.
Yeah, he did, and they call out to him.
The Devil's Lake Impaler.
Yeah.
But they were calling him Damon in this one.
I remember looking at it going, well, who's this guy? And then I was kind of like, I twigged, oh yeah, okay. He must be the killer from the first movie.
Yes, and that happened to me.
But it was hardly great to see him. If it had been like Jason or something, like one of those top... I mean, obviously you can't use those guys because copyright. But you can see why people might get excited. But the guy from the killer from the previous film is just kind of like...
Well, that's the thing, right? It's super familiar, but we think it's super familiar because they're making everything super familiar. Everything's the tropes and whatever. That was the second time in the movie where I was like, oh shit, that's right, it's calling back to something that actually happened in the first one.
Yeah.
So I guess that probably speaks to the fact that, much like the first one, I didn't have a bad time with it, but I've never gone back to it. I kind of forgot a lot of elements of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm not gonna rip them for that. I think it's worthwhile with a lot of the stuff they did going back to the first one and bringing those characters back. I was happy enough for him to do that with people like Rad Chad, but quite honestly, even Sam, when they rolled him out from the first one, I was like, fuck, I don't even remember him, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it probably...
You probably needed to watch the first movie before you watched the
second.
I
reckon, yeah, it would have made a few things land a little better for me. But also, in saying that, I guess it speaks to the quality of where we're at. Like, they're fun, but ultimately, so far, they've been pretty disposable.
Yes. My last dislike was, we do all that good work, we kind of get some goodwill back with the Saw, riff on Saw ending.
Yeah.
With Rad Chad being alive and him having an accomplice and everything. And then we go for fucking low-hanging fruit. He trips and falls out of the coffin and shit like that. I was just like, what are we doing? Like, fuck.
Yeah.
This is what we've got to.
Yeah.
We feel the need to throw in a stupid joke where he tumbles out of his coffin.
And I am usually all for a bit of slapstick, but if that's all you got to go with,
but you didn't need it because you just nailed the.
Yeah, I felt like that too.
In both humour and film work, you managed to nail and spoof the Saw ending with a nice little twist in your own manner. So why then go stupidly and have him trip out of the coffin like an idiot?
Yeah, I
and
agree.
of all the jokes to go with, like, that's not it.
What would you have done? What would you have done if he had walked out and said, "What are you doing in my bathing suit?" or something like that?
I would have laughed. Don't worry. But you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like you've taken it too far. Like, once again you did some really good work, and then you overdicked it.
Yeah.
There was no need for that humorous moment then.
Yep.
Happy for that to come later, which it did. You know, he gets in the car with the guys and he leaves and everything. It's Under Him Heart's playing.
Yep.
All nice way to end it in my mind. But
no, I agree. Unnecessary.
Oh. So you got anything else?
No, that was it for
that's
me.
It? You happy?
I was pretty happy with it,
that?
but yeah, I can't disagree with anything that you kind of had gripes with there.
Well, look, put it this way: if they came out with a Scare Package 3, I'd still watch it. You know
hope
why?
they do.
Because I'd like to. I feel like they're close.
Yeah,
they're close to getting this kind of making these better.
Do you think?
But I just felt like once again they fell back into some of the same problems that they had with the first one and didn't rectify anything.
Do you think we could have waited a little longer for this one?
Yeah, could have.
Another 6 months or something just to polish up some of the stories.
Yeah, tighten up some of the dialogue, remove some of the silly jokes. You probably could have. You could have taken a bit more time.
Yeah.
But you know that's not how this stuff works now.
No.
You churn this out as quick as you can. All right, that was Scare Package 2. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Podomatic, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. We're on Facebook at ThrillMe Podcast Australia, Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com, and Instagram at thrillmepodcastau. Keep an eye on the Facebook page for details of the next film. But until then, take it easy, everyone, and we'll catch up with you later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.